Hi, my name is Steve Rahi. I am a cloud solutions architect specializing in management technologies. Today's discussion will be our final installment in the series comparing Configuration Manager and Intune in terms of concepts. The discussion today will focus on reporting and analytics, and like the others in the series, this will be a really high-level 30,000-foot view review of the topic, right? A number of the topics that we will talk about, I already have recorded some discussions that focus in on those particular topics one at a time. So this is just kind of a collective set things side by side. Let's look at reporting and analytics as it relates to Config Manager, and then very quickly turn the page and look at the options available in Intune. The agenda for this session, pretty straightforward. Just going to look at Config Manager versus Intune basically in table form. And then we're going to look at the options in Intune, again, at a very high level. So will be a quick session here. In terms of reporting, there are really two options in Configuration Manager. The first is SQL Server Reporting Services. Now, this is a huge option, right? Lots of pre-built canned reports that come along with Configuration Manager that Configuration Manager admins are accustomed to having right there in the console, right? There's lately been also integration with Power BI. So in addition to just the SQL Server Reporting Services reports, you can craft Power BI data backed reports to your liking, right? You have the complete Configuration Manager database, and so if you understand the database structure and how to pull information out of there, the sky is really the limit on what you can do for reporting. Other options in Configuration Manager that I didn't really put here because they're not really reporting kind of things is we have dashboards all over the product that will indicate different information depending on what you're looking at, right? So, it kind of gives you information, kind of reporting, not the classic reporting when it comes to Config Manager. In Intune, we have a number of things, some that meet the eye, some that may not meet the eye, right? I'll show you in a minute the reports node, where we have some pre-built reports, not anywhere on the scale of Configuration Manager, but they are there and useful, right? Under monitoring, that's another part of the console. There are also some reports there. Actually, I wish that we had reports and monitoring combined. It would be nice, but either way, we do have access to both nodes and the content within. Talk about a concept called export APIs. We'll look at Power BI workbooks, talk about log analytics integration, and so forth. So already just in the list, hopefully you get a sense that there are more options than maybe are obvious on the Intune side when it comes to reporting. Again, we'll kind of detail what those are a little bit more as we get to each one. Then on the analytics side, right, we do have options here as well. On the Config Manager side, we do have endpoint analytics that we also have on Intune. In Intune, we often refer to this as advanced analytics in the console. I think it's still referred to as endpoint analytics. We'll see it in a minute. As a part of that, on the Config Manager side, we have CM Pivot. We have Device Query on Intune, which is the Intune equivalent of CM Pivot. It's not the same at all. It's just recently been introduced in Intune, and so hopefully we'll catch up a bit as we go along. But CM Pivot has more capabilities currently than Device Query does, but Device Query is very powerful at the same time. Software metering can arguably be listed as an analytics option. There is no equivalent to software metering in Intune, right? It's only a CM thing. And then on the analytics side, we have compliance settings on CM, and we have what are called remediations on Intune. So I'll talk about some of that more as we get to each section. Again, 30,000-foot view is our goal. So the first place I want to start the discussion In terms of CM, we're done, right? That's it. I just wanted to list out the options. This is not really a session to dig into and detail CM. We have all of that available on the web. I've done recordings of that before, so if you want to see that, it's certainly out there, but not for this session. Right, so turning to Intune, what do we have? So we have the reports node. And just real quick, a screenshot of the reports node. You see the different reports that we have, the device management focused reports, where we can look at our Windows updates, our cloud PCs, our device configurations. I'll show you a couple of examples of that in a minute. We have endpoint security, where we can look at antivirus and firewall status. Here's our link into endpoint analytics, which I'll show you in a minute. We do actually have a data warehouse. I probably should have listed this on the reporting side. I don't know a lot of people that use the data warehouse, but it is out there if you want to have access to it. We have Windows auto patch specific results or reports, and then we have these Azure Monitor categorized sections where we can look at diagnostics. Here's our workbooks, log analytics, etc. We'll see each one of these in a minute. In fact, let me show you that node in the portal now. So if I go over to Intune and look, here's our reporting node live reports right here. And so you see that same list on the sidebar. And we can look at a report. So let's just look, for example, maybe at device compliance. And then we'll be able to see, here's our overview. In my lab, pretty simple, pretty basic. We have 11 devices, 5 of which are not compliant, right? We can scroll down and see additional detail about those devices and their status and et cetera. We can seen compliant, not compliant, whatever, when it was evaluated. Anyway, you get the idea. And then the specific reports under this umbrella, there are 7 reports that you can take a look at. Let's just look at device compliance report real quick. And I can go generate this, and it'll take a second to generate, but then I'll have the latest and greatest from Intune as it's clicking along here. All right, here we go. So similar kind of view as what we saw just on the dashboard, but just to give you an idea of what it kind of looks like. And then also, if we go back to just, I didn't want to go all the way home, but I will. If we go back to the reports node, just run another one here as an example. Maybe we look at group policy analytics, right? So here's another example where we have a dashboard that we start with. Here's policies that are ready for migration, some that aren't supported, some that are deprecated. So if you're actually starting to look at moving group policy from on-prem to Intune, which you should, if you haven't started, please get started because it's really important. Then this is a good way to kind of get an overview of what's out there. Here we just have the one report. If I run that one, then I can look at readiness state, what do I want, profile type, what do I want, and so forth. Generate that report and probably get a similar view in terms of numbers to what we had on the dashboard, but a little bit more detail on it. All right. You can list out the different profiles and such that are in your environment. Anyway, so not to belabor, right? This is a 30,000 foot view that I'm wanting to do, but still want to give you an idea. Those are the reports. You can click through them, see what's out there. Right? Similar to the reports node, we have monitor. And so these are the various reports, quote unquote, that are available under the monitoring node. Let me show you the monitoring node and perhaps a couple of reports there. So going back into the Intune portal, if we go down to devices, then we will have monitor, right? And you'll see all of these options. And so let's just run a couple. We have the Windows auto patch devices, iOS update installation failure. One that's always interesting is perhaps the where is it? The enrollment. No, the enrollment failures was on the other one, was it? No, here it is. Okay. Enrollment failures. Let's go just check. Now, I don't have any in my environment, it's my lab. But if you are in a production environment, you want to see devices that are failing enrollment for whatever reason, this monitoring report will give you a good sense of that. Another one that's interesting to me is certificates. If you're deploying certificates in your environment, then we'll list out the certificate, the source from which it came. So you see the cloud PKI service here, on-prem PKI service somewhere in here. All these look like they came from cloud PKI, which that's fine. But if you have on-prem delivered certs from your on-prem CA, you'll be able to reference that here and so forth, right? So anyway, give you an idea of those. Pretty straightforward, but to know what's in each one of these categories is helpful. Okay, let's move on to those are kind of the ones that are obvious. Let's move on to ones that may not be as obvious. And here I will just stick with the PowerPoint, right? We have a whole category of what we call export APIs. Well, what is an export API? Well, put simply, an export API is a way to go programmatically grab sections of data that you care about and maybe particular focused areas of that data that you care about and export that into a format that you can then manipulate further, programmatically, whatever, right? Sky's the limit with it. Once you have the chunk of data, then you might want to leverage it for various reasons, right? Up to you. So these are the various categories of data that are in the export API. You can see compliance-related things. You can see devices report. That's one we'll focus on in a minute and just kind of show you an example of how to retrieve it. Co-management status. So malware reports, unhealthy, blah, blah, blah. We go on through quality updates, MAM. We have some device compliance stuff. This firewall status, right? Devices with inventory. These are all big, potentially big devices with inventory is one that has a lot of detail in it, right? So take these, explore. I'm not going to dig into each one. I do want to show you one example of how to ask for and then possibly process the information. This example, just quick and dirty example just to illustrate the concept. This is just a piece of code that leverages Graph API to use the export API. Specifically, this one is focused on the devices export API. So I define this is the export API. Here are the fields that I care about from this particular export API. And the result is we're going to return these into the variable body and then transform that body to JSON and then ultimately export it out as a CSV. And at that point, maybe you manipulate it while it's in the JSON. Maybe you export it to the CSV and manipulate it there. Maybe you take the CSV and load it somewhere else that you can then query. Really, it's up to you at that point. But this is a way to pull the data out of your existing Intune tenant and move it into a place that you can feel comfortable working with. All right, let's keep going. So under Azure Monitor, we have a couple of settings. There's diagnostic settings here. I'm just going to show these to you in quick order and then go to the console and show them to you. Diagnostic settings, which is where you can get in and define some details about your log analytics workbooks and where you're going to place data that you want to export, right? The whole idea of Azure Monitor is to be able to take data from Intune and move it over to log analytics, right? Define log analytics workspace, whatever. And then from that log analytics workspace, you have the ability to do things like leverage workbooks, right? Maybe that's where you would move it into something like Sentinel, or that's where some people have taken data and moved it over into Splunk and different things, right? So there's a lot that you can do with this. Right? I will tell you that not every bit of Intune data is able to migrate into log analytics right now, but a big chunk of it is. So here's just the diagnostic settings where you go configure your log analytics workspace and details within. And then here's log analytics where you would actually be able to go query the data that you move over. Again, show this to you in a minute. And then here's workbooks. So here's just a view of your workbooks gallery in Entra, right? And certainly you can see the different workbooks here, but then there's an Intune focused blade as well, where you can have access to some pre-populated workbooks for auditing and different things, right? So let's go take a look at it live. So if I go into the portal, then what I want to do is, let me go back home, and then actually let me go to reports. And then in reports, I'm going to go down to my Azure Monitor section. So I'm going to start with diagnostic settings. And then under diagnostic settings, I do have an Intune workspace already created. I can add one. If I want to add a diagnostic setting, I can do that here. And notice here's where you define the different logs that you might want to move into Log Analytics. Here's some of the details about what you want to do, stream to an event hub, partner solution, blah, blah. Again, 30,000-foot view, so I'm not really digging into this in detail. I'll show you this one that I already have created. Here's my Log Analytics workspace for shipping some things over, just some detail about it. Nothing real exciting here. I've already got my settings created, so I'm shifting everything except for Windows 365 audit logs over with a 30-day retention. Here's the workspace that's configured, and so you can kind of see it built out here. Now, this itself isn't really exciting. It creates the integration between Intune and Log Analytics, but what is exciting, what is fun, is what you can do with it from there, right? So again, big topic, so we're not going to go into it in detail, but I do want to at least illustrate it for you. If we go back down to Azure Monitor, here's our Log Analytics workspace, and all this does is open up a window where we can go and query Log Analytics, and if we let this build, we'll have some predefined things that we can look at and so forth. This really does, to get the most out of it, require that you understand the Kusto query language and kind of how to pull things out at that level. You can see down the different information that's in here, workloads, blah, 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 right? And you can even collapse down from here and get basically to the query window where you type your query, get your results, and so on. And that's about all I'm going to say about that, right? And so it's good to be able to get that information for sure. But one really cool thing that you can do with that information is, let me go back down here, you can create workbooks. So workbooks are a Azure concept, and that's why I showed you the screenshot of the Azure portal listing workbooks on a previous slide, but they're also linked over here in Intune, where you can see the workbooks that are available. Here's some that you might have created. These are ones I've worked on before. Here's some audit workbooks, right, and so forth. I don't know. Let's go, look at one. See what it's doing. It's actually starting to build it. Haven't looked at this in a while. Didn't return any results. So, not a big deal there. Let me try one more just to see. Oops. Before we leave this, again, just staying high level, but would like to show one here. Let's go back and look at, Intune audit activity, see what we might pull from here. So again, not a ton here, but interesting, to be able to see that you can actually build workbooks based on this data and such, right? Okay, so that's the reporting side of things. I want to shift to analytics for a minute. Right? So analytics will give you some really interesting data. And the first one that I want to hit is advanced analytics, as we will call it in Intune, enhanced or endpoint analytics, whatever. Right? There's two flavors of this. One is what comes by default with Intune, and there's a lot that's there by default. There are some additional capabilities that come in with the Intune suite. So I will call out the ones that come with the Intune suite, and then the rest come with just Intune by itself, right? But here's the dashboard, and I want to show that to you. And then let's go look at that in the portal because there's a little bit more. I do have sessions on this if you want to go look at it. So let's go look at the portal. And so here under reports, we have endpoint security, endpoint analytics. So let's go into that portal. And so you're going to start off with just an overview where you get to look at your endpoint analytics score. This is the score for your environment, and it's really compared to data from environments that we know all of. This kind of gives you a sense of where you are compared to the rest of the world as we know it, right? It's your data. We're not sharing your data anywhere, but we do have some comparison capability to give you an idea for your kind of organization, where you are, right? And the most important thing here is to help you level set over time. So the baseline function, the best way I would think about using it is as you see detail coming from endpoint analytics, that you will make changes, you'll make improvements based on recommendations and so forth. And then hopefully you'll watch your baseline score go higher, right? So you might start endpoint analytics and start with a baseline score of 60. Right? And then as you make some improvements and we continue to evaluate, then this endpoint analytics score will increase. You might even set new baselines as you make improvements and then watch those baselines continue to improve, whatever, right? Again, detailed topic, just doing a high-level overview. The categories that come are startup performance and application reliability, resource performance, work from anywhere. These are included with advanced analytics, endpoint analytics out of the box, right? Battery health is one that comes with Intune Suite, right? There's ways that you can drill in anomalies. I think anomalies comes with Intune Suite. Don't hold me. I'm drawing a blank on that right now. But anomalies helps you detect anomalies, in your environment, right? By different model scores and device scores. And I don't have it turned on for me, but you get the idea, right? Let's go back here. All right. And then we have scores by model, scores by device. There's ways to go in and look at specific, here's settings where you can adjust baselines and do different things. Right? There's also a section down here where you're going to get our recommendations if we have any. My lab doesn't have any recommendations because my lab's not exciting, but still, right? You can go in and specifically hone in on different sections here, right? Okay, one section that I do want to show you is here, I think. Startup performance, where is it? Maybe that's the wrong section. Let's see. It's called, let's see, where is it? Drawing a blank. Let me find it for a minute. Hang on just a second. I'm going to stop the recording and find it and come back. Okay, I was stupid. I forgot to do one thing. So I'm back on the startup performance under device performance. I'm just going to click on a device. And you'll see off to the right, there's this thing called device timeline. So device timeline is also part of Intune Suite. But what this does is it will give you key events that have happened during the lifetime or during the timeline that we record of this device. So that if you're troubleshooting, maybe there's a problem, you can come in, look at device timeline, and it'll give you additional information about what's going on, right? So hopefully something that is helpful for you to give you that additional troubleshooting, again, part of the Intune Suite. Now, another piece that is part of advanced analytics, but is in a different section of the console, is this thing called device query. So here's a couple of screenshots. It's on the devices node, and there's an entry here for device query, but there's also an entry here for a specific device here, right? So let's go look at it in the console live. And so device query was first introduced, I don't know, at the time of this recording a few months ago, I think, maybe a little bit longer than that. I don't remember. But device query for individual devices, and that's the key. Individual devices was first introduced that way, right? And so to use device query, you would have to go to an individual device, and then you could query information about that device. And so down here we have device query. You can see the query window. You can see some of the categories that you can query on and so forth. And very useful, very, very useful. Most recently, as of this recording, I think about a month ago, we added, so device query, individual device query was put in, I don't know, close to probably a year ago. Don't hold me to it. I'm just guessing on timeframes as we're doing this recording. What's called multiple device query was introduced about a month ago, and that's where the entry comes in here. Where is it? Okay, hang on. Let me go back. Overview, devices, here we go. All right, there it is. So here it is. So if you want to query multiple devices in your environment for a particular thing, it's the same window, same query, but now this spans across multiple devices, right? So that's all I'll go into as far as that goes, but that's available now as well, right, for you to use that. Still part of endpoint analytics, and this does require Intune Suite to be able to leverage, whether it's individual machines or the multiple device query, but very useful. Okay. And then the last thing is remediations. So remediations is pretty close parallel, not at all the same, but it makes me think of it makes me think of CM and configuration items, right? Because in you can do a ton with configuration items that you can't as directly, as flexibly accomplish here, right? You can pretty much accomplish anything. Okay, sorry, I'm babbling on about this. So configuration items let you basically look at a device for a particular configuration, and if you find that configuration or don't find it, then we'll note that, and in some cases allow you to take action on that, right? Not all. One of the aspects of compliance settings is the ability to use a script. And with a script, you can use a script to detect a condition, and then if you find that condition or don't find it, whatever you engineer it for, then you can have what's called a remediation script to fix the problem and to actually get things in place that you need. Well, so remediations basically is the script option from compliance settings that you can bring forward. So you can literally do anything you want with scripts, but maybe not as easily as you would if you had it in the UI. So let me show this to you over in the console. So if we go over to the Intune portal, and then we go to where we are. Scroll down here. We have scripts and remediations, and so if we go here, we can certainly have any script we want. Those are a different categorization of scripts. Then we have remediations, and so remediations. Here's a couple of out-of-the-box ones that come. So I'll just use the group policy one to illustrate. Here, if we go to properties, you will see that you have the script itself. Let me go to settings and edit. You have the script itself that will detect a situation, and then you have the remediation. So these are provided for you, but you can use this to do whatever you want. You define the detection script, you define the remediation script, and the sky's the limit, right? One thing that I thought of when I first saw this, especially thinking of environments that have configuration manager co-management in place, right? In co-management, you would have the config manager client, which can certainly do things on the device. You would also have Intune, where you could deploy things like this. And so thinking about the config manager environments that I've been a part of for years and years and years, almost all of them can think of one that has not had to deal with config manager client situations, and keeping the client healthy and remediating the client. It's commonplace in the environments I've been in for customers to have scripts that they write to detect conditions on the client, and then if they detect those conditions, to fix them, right? So how cool would it be here to be able to have your detection script go out and see, hey, do I detect a problem? And then if you do, the remediation script can come back through and fix it. That's one use, right? That I don't know if anyone out there is doing it, but it seems like a really, really good use of remediations to me, right? Anyway, so wanted to show that to you. And really that wraps up what I had to show you about reports and analytics, comparing CM to Intune, showing you what's available in Intune. Again, nothing deep here, but hopefully get some things in front of you that maybe you haven't thought of, right? And the capabilities are definitely there on the reporting side, more so than some people initially will realize. So with that, we're going to wrap up the series. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you next time.